Curious George, the curious little monkey. Here he comes, as happy as can be. Curious George, the curious little monkey. Why is he curious? Well, let's go and see.
Curious George at the Carnival. The Carnival was in town. The man with the yellow hat had promised to take George. They drove to the Carnival grounds. At the main gate, the man with the yellow hat met his friend, Mr. Marvel, the magician. "What's the matter? You look sad," asked the man with the yellow hat. "The boss is coming today, and there aren't enough people to watch my show. I might lose my job," said the magician. "Why don't you take a look around, George, while I talk to my friend," said the man with the yellow hat. "But remember, don't get into trouble." George wandered off. It was exciting. The Ferris wheel, the food stands, the roller coaster, and then the merry-go-round. George loved the music and the beautiful painted horses that moved round and round. A bell rang. A man pulled a big metal stick, and all the horses stopped. George watched him closely. "The ride is over," said the man, and some children got off. More children got on, and he went around to collect the tickets. George sneaked over to get a better look. How did that big metal stick work? George was curious. He leaped up, grabbed the metal stick. Suddenly, the merry-go-round started. He was having a great time riding while all around him was a lot of confusion. "What's going on here?" shouted the collector. "Who started the merry-go-round?" He rushed towards the big metal stick and stopped the merry-go-round. "That monkey over there," a lady shouted and pointed at George. "Don't you know you could hurt somebody this way?" the man shouted and made a grab for George. But George leaped high up onto a pole, then down into a crowd of people and disappeared. After a while, he saw a big red and white sign. There was a man with a black cape, a tall hat, and a small stick in his hand. A few people were watching. It was Mr. Marvel, the magician. George watched carefully. He pulled a scarf out of his sleeve. Then he waved his hands in the air, and suddenly, there was an egg. Where did it come from? George was curious. Then came the next trick. The magician took off his hat, and out came a white rabbit. A few more people gathered around. A man with a notebook was watching. Maybe he was the boss. Just then, the magician put the rabbit on the table and covered it with a red silk cloth. "Abracadabra," he said, and lifted the cloth. The rabbit was gone. Where did he go? George was curious. While everybody was watching the magician, George crawled under the table. The magician's helper had pulled the rabbit through a hole in the table. "And now the greatest trick of all," said the magician. "I'm going to make the rabbit come back. Watch carefully." "Abracadabra," he said, and pulled off the cloth. And there was George. Everyone was so surprised, even Mr. Marvel. "Look," someone shouted. The rabbit turned into a monkey. "Hooray, hooray," they cheered, and clapped and clapped. What a magician. People heard the cheering and came from all over the carnival. Soon there was a great crowd. The man with the notebook came over and shook hands with the magician. "That was a good act," he said. "Won't you stay? We can talk about a new contract tomorrow." Just then, George saw the man with the yellow hat coming through the crowd. "You did a good thing there, George, helping our friend, Mr. Marvel." Then he turned to the magician and said, "Good luck, but you better get yourself a new monkey because this one's going home with me."